1960s were a period of great social, economic, political, and cultural actions and legacies. Events such as the Vietnam conflict and the space race impacted people globally. With a strong economy at the time and an outburst of changing culture and social actions, the 60s was a time to create lasting legacies. Actions in the political world of the 60s included the presidency and the assassination of John F. Kennedy, as well as the civil rights movement and a legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. The youth movement, popularly known as the Youthquake, was spreading across Europe and the Americas. Adolescents actively strove to defy the formalities of previous decades. Also in an attempt to cast off old-fashioned expectations, women rose up to demand rights equal to men. The second wave of feminism focused on improving women's status in both law and society. The contagious behaviors and culture of swinging London and the mod lifestyle spilled over to the United States, resulting in the arrival of British novelties such as the Beatles. The British supermodel Twiggy was the living epitome of the youth movement, the second wave of feminism, and the British invasion of the 60s. Twiggy was born as Leslie Hornby in the suburban town of Neasden, London, on September 19, 1949. With no spectacular childhood or extraordinary upbringing, Leslie Hornby was nothing but a skinny high school dropout. That changed almost overnight in February of 1966. Nigel Davies, a failing hairdresser, met Leslie and was convinced that she should model. Later, he would claim that
Twiggy just had something about her that was absolutely right.
He transformed himself and 16-year-old Leslie into Justin de Villeneuve and Twiggy. The pair began to spend time together, and Justin became Twiggy's manager and boyfriend.
She was too skinny, unprofessional, and young to work any of the modeling jobs Justin took her to.
Justin brought Twiggy to a hairdresser who gave her a haircut that he had envisioned for her. This new and unique hairstyle would be photographed by Barry Ladigan, a photographer who took pictures for the salon and who would be the first man to shoot Twiggy. The photographs were posted on the walls of the salon and caught the attention of Deirdre McSherry, Daily Express's fashion editor, who made contact with Twiggy and Justin. On February 23, 1966, there were two huge photos of Twiggy in the center spread of the Daily Express, accompanied by the headline, "I named this girl the face of 66. Suddenly, Leslie Hornby was an instant icon with abundant work and a rapidly growing fan base. There was now no denying that Twiggy was fresh and unique. She was a 90-pound girl lacking the normal feminine appeal. She had short, boyish hair, bitten nails, no breasts, nor any other sign of a figure. She had more makeup to emphasize her wide eyes and less fabric in her miniskirts to show off her knobby knees. Suddenly, the public was falling in love with the actions of a young, independent girl who contrasted the legacy of American housewife defined in the 50s. The expectations and characteristics of this image of women are described in The Good Housewife's Guide, an article from the 50s that objectifies women and belittles their power and rights. Everything about Twiggy contrasted past icons such as curvaceous and glamorous Marilyn Monroe or demure and refined Audrey Hepburn. Twiggy's look even overshadowed the sophisticated look of her idol, Jean Shrimpton. Twiggy even admitted to Shrimpton's influence on her.
"I was growing my hair out so I could look like Jean Shrimpton. We all wanted to look like her."
By Twiggy's appearance in 1966, the second wave of feminism was in full swing. Feminists such as Germaine Greer, Kate Millett, and Gloria Steinem strove to gain equality and end discrimination. Twiggy was not a feminist, and she never contributed to the fight for equality. She was simply a change to the image of women. Feminists of the time viewed Twiggy as frivolous. Gloria Steinem said,
"For women, stereotypical gear are visual reminders of a commercial, idealized feminine image that our real and diverse female bodies can't possibly fit."
This small British girl was now a household name in England, and her legacy was spreading beyond. By the mid-60s, America had already had a taste of the British invasion, and Twiggy's appearance was bolstered by the British legacies who came before her. The Beatles and Jimi Hendrix were musical sensations of the time. They were young rebels whose controversial drug use and suggestive music fascinated and excited the youth of the 1960s worldwide. A piece of fan mail to Twiggy expressed the impact of the British invasion on America.
"You and Justin have made as big a hit with us as the Beatles did when they came along."
The effects of her actions abroad were not felt exclusively in the United States. Twiggy's face was plastered on French, Japanese, and Spanish billboards as well. No one took more action towards furthering legacies than the youth. They caught on to new factions such as the miniskirt, a part of the mod look invented by Mary Quant and defined by Twiggy. The miniskirt was a shock to the conservative values of the 50s and matched the legacies of the youthquake of the 60s. Before the 1960s, adults had all the influence in their societies. Adolescents carried little to no power in a world where their parents controlled their futures. In the 60s, the youth actively faced the controversies of their time. Groups such as the SDS and SNCC fought the political battles concerning the Vietnam conflict and civil rights movement. The 1967 Summer of Love consisted of youth experimentation with cultural issues such as music, drugs, sex, and expression. Twiggy did not relate to the politics of the 1960s. She stood for a change in the social laws of the time. She exhibited the power of the youth movement by proving that the actions of one 16-year-old girl could create a lasting legacy on the fashion industry.
A royal reception for Britain's top mini model, whose professional name is Twiggy, real name Leslie Hornby. The 17-year-old Cockney girl is accompanied by her boyfriend manager, Justin de Villeneuve, who fielded most of the reporters' questions. Not exactly voluptuous, Twiggy stands 5 feet 6 inches and weighs 91 pounds. Her measurements 31, 22, 32. Her two fondest wishes to meet Cassius Clay and visit Disneyland.
The public was in awe. Despite rumors that the Twiggy phase would last but a few months, Twiggy steadily continued to grow in popularity. Colleagues also recognized her success, such as Robert Powell, who said,
Twiggy was one of the names that you could say anywhere in the world, and they would all have heard of Twiggy.
There were Twiggy products such as Twiggy lashes and makeup, Twiggy dolls, and Twiggy mannequins. Twiggy released a line of designer dresses, which became an instant must-have for girls everywhere. With Twiggy's actions becoming popular news, the public began to form opinions. Author Jean Kerr wrote,
Women would take one look at Twiggy, and they would make sweeping statements like, well, if Twiggy is in, then I'm out.
Girls everywhere were saving up to buy Twiggy dresses so they could look just like her. After the first day in New York City and the famous Twiggy press conference, Justin told the newspapers,
After the press conference, I asked the Port Authority press guy if this crowd is usual for a press conference. He said, it's the biggest I've ever seen.
There is no doubt that Twiggy's actions impacted the 60s, and Twiggy's legacies also leave a mark on the society and culture of today. Twiggy's weight was a controversial topic back in the 60s. The public's various opinions were demonstrated through cartoons, phrases, and articles. There were sayings and jokes that made fun of her tiny form, such as the popular, Forget Oxfam, feed Twiggy. Today, the controversy of women's weight is even more prominent.
Now, the fashion parade may be just getting started in New York, but there is a controversy that, of course, has been brewing on the catwalk for some time now.
The fight, of course, over two skinny models is putting many designers and the women who strut the stage on the defensive.
Eating disorders have become more common among girls of the 21st century as the image of beauty gets smaller. Fashion models also dwindle in size as the years go on. Women's roles in society have continued to expand and become equal to men's. This expansion is portrayed in modern-day fashion through magazines and fashion spreads. Women, especially of younger ages, are encouraged to merge contrasting images through clothing. Twiggy is a symbol of change and a legacy of diversity for many. Twiggy's actions and legacies are carried on by those who overcome majorities in and out of the fashion industry. Women like Kate Moss have had incredible modeling success despite her unconventional petite form and short stature. The Twiggy phenomenon had a global legacy in the 60s, a legacy that continues to be felt today. Twiggy became the new woman, the type of woman whose legacy began in the 60s. This woman is a woman who can travel and work for herself. This woman raises a family with a husband by her side rather than him directing her every move. This woman is an individual who is not afraid of being different. Twiggy's differences were what made her a symbol for the women's revolution, the British invasion, and the youthquake. Twiggy proved that you can be an individual and still have an impact on ideas and legacies. Twiggy was more than a phase or an iconic fashion model. Justin de Villeneuve describes,
You can't just do top modeling, you know. We can't stand still. We must go a step further.
The actions made in revolutions of the 60s were a part of Twiggy and her legacy of youth, individuality, independence, and beauty. Twiggy's actions held strong with the ideals of the 60s, and her legacies would continue beyond the decade.